Well, I didn't get a lot of time in the shop this week, so I'm going to make another piece for the chess set that I'm working on. But before I get started on that, I wanted to bring you up to speed on a couple of things that are going on in the shop here. Number one is, you may know the bees didn't make it through the winter. I posted a video last night, and where I took the hive apart and talked about it. And there's a lot of great comments on that video from people who know a lot more about beekeeping than I do. And then next week I'm making another beehive, and I'll have plans on my site. And this beehive I'm making out of thermally modified poplar. Some people call it baked poplar. And basically poplar is a wood that you should never use outside. But with this new thermally treated poplar, it's been modified to be used outside. People are using it for decking. There's a couple of different species that they're cooking it, and I don't know that much about it. I'll put a link in the description, and maybe I'll put something on my website if you want to know more about it. But for now, all I know is it's an alternative to using something like a pine. Now, the reason why I don't want to use pine is I've developed an allergy to pine, where if I run a piece of pine through the table saw, I just break out in a rash. And the last time I used pine was for building this beehive, and I had a terrible rash, so I just avoid pine at all costs now. And that's not uncommon. There's a lot of people with different wood allergies. I know people who are allergic to zebra wood or cedar, and the only thing you can do is avoid that wood. Now, the next thing is, I was up in Vermont on Monday, and so basically I met with a couple of people, and next week I'll do another video on my dream woodshop barn project. I am going to make a few modifications to the model, and once that video is done, basically I'll bring you up to speed on how that's going. So let's go ahead and get started on the chess piece. This is going to be the castle. This turned out to be a really easy piece to make. First of all, the dimensions are 1 inch by 1 inch by 2 3/4. And the original idea was to remove material at the bottom all the way around the block using a dado blade in the table saw, and then using the same dado blade set at 1/8 of an inch to cut a trough all the way around the block. And then the last thing would be to carve a hole at the top of the block. The first thing I did was remove this material, and I ended up with this, and thought, I think that looks pretty good, I'll just stop right there. I'm using my crosscut sled to make the channel or the cut in the chess piece, and I've also clamped a stop block to the outfeed table to stop the crosscut sled, and that way all of the cuts will be at the same depth. I've also set up a stop block or fence to help position the block as I push the sled through the saw. Once I finished with the table saw, that was really the only shaping for these pieces, and then just a lot of sanding. And I think that's definitely the downside of making a chess set, is there's so much repetition. The first one is fun, and then the next 3 are just like work. So I'm happy to almost be done. The next piece will be the bishop, and then I'll move on to the pawns. The pawns I think are going to be really easy, and then I'll be finished, and I can check that one off the list. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.